I spent $200,000 to get rid of my cheating wife and saved my daughter's future. We were married for 19 years, together for 23, when she became aloof and distant, finally declaring that our marriage seemed likely over and that she was on a healing path, AA, while I was broken, engaged in career, doting on family, music making, furniture building, friends, sports. She was spending increasing amounts of time out of the house to help celebrate a friend's sobriety. A teenage daughter and I were home together without mom many nights. Things got increasingly worse, with the wife stating she was willing to not file for divorce until the daughter went off to college, with occasional vocalized, "What am I thinking? We've built a great life together," interludes. Finally, after about 5 months of this, I couldn't take it anymore and read her emails, searched on love. Bang. Confronted her. She asked what I found out. First mistake, told her. Got a new set of lies that conveniently served as least harmful explanation of my evidence. We only made out once. It was awful. We're just friends. I was crushed, having endured this before with my first wife. I told her she had to end contact with this guy, and we spent the weekend rebonding, or so I thought. Things seemed to be on a healing path. But over the next couple of weeks, she started backsliding into the acrimony she had inflicted upon me earlier. She began to urge me to work on my upper chest. I told her that I commuted by bicycle 20 miles a day and was in very good shape. I said I felt fine about my body. Her boyfriend had some big chest. I would learn. More night celebrations. I got a phone she had recently upgraded from and did a deep forensics dive. I found very explicit text messages indicating full carnality. Turns out her lover was a junkie she met in AA. 5'8" to my 6'2", bankrupt, estranged from his family, pock-faced, poorly educated. I graduated from a top 10 university and was and currently am a technology executive, making very good money. I was at least relieved that this reinforced my existing knowledge that it was never about me. Reconfronted her. She wanted to know what new information I found. I told her, no, you'll just make up a new set of lies. Tell me everything or get out of my house. Keep in mind, I already know more than you can imagine. It all came spilling out in ugly waves, all the basic Zex moves one is driven to in self-destruction. I insisted she write it all out in detail. I confronted her junkie boyfriend at the third-rate hotel he worked in, blew that crap up. His hotel chain transferred him after I confronted him in the lobby. I told her I would consider the gift of reconciliation, but that she had an enormous amount of work to win back my shattered trust. She seemed grateful for the chance. Second mistake, should have insisted she move out for some period of time. Unbeknownst to me, the teenage daughter had been reading Mom's emails and knew all the tawdry details. A couple of weeks after the big D-Day, the daughter got drunk, dropped some pills, drove a car off the road, miraculously not injuring herself or others as the car flipped, teetering above a rain-swollen creek. Daughter got a huge DWI, was kicked out of National Honor Society, and shamed at school. Mom decided I had to deal with all this because she couldn't. A couple of weeks later, my ex had a complete parental breakdown. She screamed at our daughter, "Duck you, you're the reason I want to get crap-faced drunk." Then she peeled out of the driveway at a high rate of speed to a fate my daughter and I couldn't ponder. Our daughter was extremely upset, as one could imagine. I reassured her that her mother's outburst was completely unacceptable and was about her mother's cognitive and emotional state, and not a reflection on her daughter. Mom eventually returned, remorseful, but minimizing what she had done. Then a transformation then occurred. Where our daughter had been overly angry at her mother, now our daughter knew she couldn't be angry at her mother, as it could lead her mother to end her life, which, in the twisted logic of Mom's tantrum, would be the daughter's fault. So daughter took her otherwise understandable anger out on me. Mom, greatly relieved, fomented her daughter's revectored impulse to be angry at me. Mom encouraged her daughter to see me as the villain and the rightful recipient of rage. An alcoholic, Mom had to protect her alcoholic ego and if it meant emotionally manipulating, offending her own daughter, no problem. This got worse and worse. My wife began to see herself as the real victim in all this, which in perverse hindsight, she actually was. She declared with great relief that I've forgiven myself. She would stalk me on internet support groups for victims of infidelity. Third mistake, telling her about my support systems, where she would find fodder for new screaming arguments. As should be fairly predictable by now, things completely fell apart when a year into our attempted reconciliation, she erupted in a mocking diatribe about my deepest insecurities and sadness, the place every longtime spouse knows about the other and knows to never exploit. She went there hard, imitating me from moments years prior where I had shared my deepest vulnerabilities. She mockingly went into fake tears and exaggerated self pity while maniacally cackling at my extreme discomfort. But that was my light bulb moment, and I now see it as a wonderful and enlightening event. If in this time in which I was offering the gift of an opportunity to win my trust back, she was willing to obliterate all norms of marital decorum to exploit the intimate vulnerabilities I had shared with her, my spouse of some 20 years, in order to vent her misdirected shame, then clearly and irrevocably she could never be trusted again. At that moment, I knew I had to be rid of this cancer. I was now certain I could never trust her again. And I was not willing to be in a relationship with an irredeemably untrustworthy person. Where I had been racked with ambivalence before, I had a calm certainty. The divorce settlement was ugly. I ended up paying her $200,000 to keep the house I had already paid for and keep my pension I had worked 20 years for. Even though she worked and made a good salary, I had paid all the household bills, mortgage, car payments, taxes, insurance, food, etc. for the entire marriage. Not sure where all her money went over the years, likely to her junkie boyfriend, who knows. The saving grace was the house appraiser she and her attorney insisted on, ended up lowballing the value of the house by several $100,000. That saved me from real financial ruin, and I got to keep my dream house, a custom-made high-end home perched on a ridge on 3 wooded acres high above a beautiful, environmentally preserved river. It's not a huge home, but has a detached recording studio for my music, a woodworking shop, and is the calmest place I've ever been. 4 years later, things are much better for my daughter and me. Our relationship is strong again, although her scars are still vicious and deep. She got into a very competitive college in New York City where she's about to graduate. She tells me how much she appreciates that I never badmouth her mom, around her at least, while telling me how stressful it is when her mom curses me and speaks disparagingly about me, openly and to anyone who'll listen. Now my ex refers to her affair as my cry for help and blames me for not seeing it as such. As she tells her remaining friends, I just slept with this guy a few times and utterly bored was too selfish to try to understand my pain. In her telling, it was the Zex. She will never understand how minor that is compared to the overall context of complete destruction of trust. When I hear these statements through the grapevine, my overwhelming reaction is one of relief. Now I have an amazing girlfriend who is emotionally competent. My daughter likes her too. What I wish I had done. A full 180. Demanded a postnup as a symbol of her commitment to reconciliation. Invited her to move out as soon as I had proof of her cheating. What I'm glad I did. Hung in there until I had 100% certainty. Never badmouthed mom around our daughter. Found support systems. Confronted her junkie lover. Knew this had nothing to do with me, but only my ex's brokenness. Update. 6 years ago last night, I reconfronted her after she had admitted to some inappropriate making out with a guy based on my finding incriminating emails. The reconfrontation involved seeing her continuing text dialogue with the guy after the initial confrontation and remorse. I rooted her phone, found all sorts of disgusting, incriminating evidence of her affair with a junkie she met in AA. 6 years ago last night, our daughter was at a friend's house for the evening. I told my now ex we have to talk. She looked worried. What about? She asked. I just want to make sure I understand what went on between you and him. I stated a bunch of statements she had said in her first micro confession. Many of these statements I knew were lies. Some I figured to be true. Yes, that's all true, she said with increasing nervousness. Then I said, I know for a fact that you're lying. Tell me the whole truth or get out of this house and don't come back. I was furious. She spat back, what is it that you think isn't true? I said, oh no, I'm not going to fall for that again. If I tell you what I know, you'll just make up a new set of lies to explain it all. Tell me everything or I will kick you out of this house. She collapsed and spilled most everything. Multiple encounters, BJ, many positions, all done in evenings when she was supposedly going out to celebrate an AA buddy's sobriety date. I collapsed in fury, sadness, heartbreak, the full mix of every negative emotion in the human range of feelings, each emotion maxed into the red, and all at once. Within a couple of days, I went to the hotel he worked for and said to him in the lobby loudly, so that's your game. Seducing mentally ill married women you meet in AA meetings. He was moved to another state. He began to make veiled threats to our family. We tried to reconcile. She was good at first, but over time, she backslid into the kind of narcissism that drives weak people to alcohol. She spied on me in internet support forums so she could start fights. She threatened to end her life to our daughter's face, blaming her for it. Daughter turned all her anger to me, the safe parent. Then, at the 1 year anniversary of D Day, 5 years ago yesterday, she went into a withering diatribe of my deepest vulnerabilities, insecurities about my children and family, mocking me and laughing to see what pain she caused me. I knew back then that time would heal. Not completely, but I knew that 5 or so years out, things would be much better. I was right. Things are largely healed between my daughter and me. I paid my ex $200,000 to get out and to keep the dream house and my pension. I am engaged to a beautiful Ivy League smart woman who is emotionally competent. She has a daughter who is a therapist. I have a daughter who is a COVID doctor, a veterinarian son, and the aforementioned youngest daughter who is living in New York City working in fashion management. I have 3 grandsons who live less than 20 miles away. My girlfriend and I will retire in a couple of years. COVID aside and twilight of my career work hassles aside, life is great and low drama. She is extremely loyal and comfortable with herself. I don't fault myself for giving my ex a second chance. It helped erase any doubt as to whether or not we could work it out. Of course, she blames me for her cheating because that's what alcoholics do. Whatever. All of this is to say it does get better, way better. I know a lot of you are going through a tough time, but I promise you, if you hang in there and reach out for help, things get better, way better. Update. Twice I had families destroyed by spousal infidelity. Kids involved, messes galore, hundreds of thousands of dollars lost in legal fees and estate settlements, thousands invested in therapy for all damaged by it. Nevertheless, this Saturday, my beloved girlfriend of 5 years and I had an intimate wedding service before family in the front yard and promised faithfulness, loyalty, and patience for the rest of our lives. It was a beautiful service. My 3 grandsons were the flower boys. They were diligent, but the 2-year-old wandered off to play with the toys he knew were in Grandpa's house instead of scattering flower petals. The minister was a friend of my new wife's, the photographer a friend of mine for 40 years, and a childhood friend of my new wife's helped organize. It was a beautiful, low humidity, sunny, but hot day in North Carolina. I love my father in law. My new mother in law is in the intermediate stages of Alzheimer's, but at least she knew her daughter was getting married to me, so that's good. My new stepdaughter is great, a 30-year-old therapist who is moving with her adorable mathematician boyfriend on a postdoc fellowship. My 3 kids get a stepmom, and the grandkids get a new grandmother. Bottom line, for those so inclined, you can find trust again. You can find love, and there are truly warm-hearted people out there.